I want to do a bit of a metaphilosophical discussion because, first of all, I really think that I have maybe a philosophy in between approach because there's basically a philosophy first approach where you're, thinking that philosophy needs to come before any sort of science, and then there's the philosophy in between approach, and then there's the philosophy last approach, which treats philosophy as a background sort of study. I would say I'm in between and possibly in the philosophy first idea, because I think we need to contemplate upon what is knowable to us and what is, what we can figure out is real, physically and ontically. But I guess that's a different debate, is between philosophy first and philosophy last approaches. But what I want to sort of go inside philosophy here and discuss that all of these fields are entwined together to make this cohesive study, because it's a cohesive, comprehensive study of the world, which discusses more than just certain things. Now, philosophy is usually broken up into logic and philosophy of logic and critical reasoning, political philosophy, or political and social philosophy, philosophy of religion, philosophy of mathematics, epistemology, metaphysics, as well as ontology, ethics, and philosophy of mind, and philosophy of language. And there are also a few others, like the other axiological study of value, which is aesthetics. But I guess I want to consider the few which matter, I think, most to the entirety of philosophy and matter most to the entirety of the studies of science in the world, which these things include philosophy of language, epistemology, philosophy of mind, metaphysics, or ontology. Now, I'm thinking about ontology more than metaphysics here. I'm just saying metaphysics because ontology is a subcategory of metaphysics. Okay, so I said philosophy. I said epistemology, philosophy of mind, ontology, philosophy of language, and ethics. Ethics and morality. I really think that all of these are intertwined within each other. And I think ethics might be, one that's not as much intertwined with them, but I think what we say in the rest of those fields determines what we say in the ethical part of things. I don't think that what we say in the ethical part of philosophy sheds much light on things that are done in all the other main parts. So basically, I'm mostly talking about epistemology, philosophy of mind, ontology, philosophy of language, and philosophy of mathematics, because those, I think, pertain to the entirety of science. They pertain to the world the most. And I think that once you sort of try and solve those things, then that sheds some light on your ethical action and moral action. But, and I guess I really think that, and I guess this kind of makes me think, is there is sort of a not a basic belief, but pretty much a fundamental idea of which has its own justification, as I'm not a foundationalist, I'm a coherentist. But I really think that there is not a basic belief which philosophy rests on. There's more a fundamental idea or fundamental understanding of things, such as I'm going to use as a great example, because I think this is a good thing, is phenomenology. I think phenomenology is not a basic belief. It's not a foundational belief. It needs justification. Believing in phenomenology needs justification itself. However, once that is done, I think we can use that to help the rest of things out. Phenomenology, if you don't know what that is, it is a it is a field in the philosophy of the mind and epistemology, as well as metaphysics and ontology, which it doesn't really get. I mean, I guess I mostly want to say epistemology and ontology, not metaphysics really, and philosophy of mind. And I think that it's basically the. I have quite a few videos about this. I have a playlist called Phenomenology. It'll be down there. But I think that once we have a justification for believing in phenomenology, this idea can help us get a better idea or better understanding of the rest of the problems we have in the rest of philosophy. I think that phenomenology has and still should have a place in philosophy of mathematics. Edmund Husserl had writings on the origins of geometry. He had writings on philosophy of arithmetic. He has stuff like that. Furthermore, phenomenology has great things in epistemology and in philosophy of mind because that's basically where it came from. And phenomenology says a lot for metaphysics and ontology, which is where we get Heidegger's Dasein and Jean-Paul Sartre's being in nothingness and stuff like that, which is more of an existentialist text, but it's still phenomenological. But I guess I want to think about this in terms of ethics also. There's phenomenology of ethics by people like Paul Ricoeur, as well as Werner Marx, which is this book, towards a phenomenological ethics, the ethos in the life world, which basically focuses on Husserl's inner subjectivity in his life world, to get ethics. And also we can have a phenomenology of aesthetics, which is there are books about that too, which a great one is by Ortega. He has a great one about that. But mostly what I'm trying to say here is that there can be a fundamental principle, which is not really a basic belief, which helps us figure out other things in philosophy. Which brings me to my main whole point of this video, is which of these things needs to be first. Because basically, if you let's say a epistemologist got some of this stuff right, but then didn't really have much going on in his philosophy of mathematics or his ontology, which means his stuff would fall apart. But I guess I want to contemplate upon which of these would have priority. Which of these things in epistemology, philosophy of mind, ontology, philosophy of language, and philosophy of mathematics, and furthermore, even ethics, which one has priority? And ethics definitely has posteriority because it is posterior to other things. It's something that should be done later. Once we figure out what we know and how we know it, and how we are, and why we are. My answer to that question would be that epistemology should be first. If we don't know the ideas of what if we have no idea of what we can know and what we do know and all that stuff, if we don't have some sort of basic, and I'm not basic in the foundational sense, but I mean a basic epistemology which justifies why we think we know things that we think we know and all that stuff. If we don't have that, then everything else might as well be shit, because if we don't have some sort of theory of what we know and how we know it and all that stuff, then there's no reason to do anything else further. We have to figure out what we know, why we know it first. And I mean, then we can, sort of do the philosophy of mind, which, discusses, everything about this. We can, do the ontology about our being and our, our ontological and being and existence. We can do things within our philosophy of math, which does more for everything, basically. Philosophy of mathematics basically helps all of the other fields, except for ethics, really. Then we can do our philosophy of language. I think definitely philosophy of language is posterior to epistemology, because if we can figure out what we know, then we can figure out how we're creating a language about these things that we're seeing and all that stuff. But this is a very large metaphilosophical rambling, which might not be of any use to anybody. But I just wanted to discuss a few of these metaphilosophical ideas, because I want to think about just how we can go about doing all these things. And if we know how philosophy is supposed to help us out, then maybe we can do things better. Thank you.